Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Tennessee Vols are national championship bound, beating Florida State 7-2 on Wednesday to advance to the College World Series finals. Xander Sechrist was the winning pitcher, and Tennessee baseball is in the finals for the first time since 1951. The Vols will take on Texas A&M, who defeated Florida yesterday. That 3-game series begins Saturday night. Nashville Soccer Club took a road win at Toronto on Wednesday with a second-half comeback led by Sam Surridge, scoring 2 goals for a 2-1 win. Nashville now up to 8th in the Eastern Conference. They'll come back home to host NYCFC on Saturday. In NFL news, the Denver Broncos have hired former Stanford head coach David Shaw as a senior personnel executive. Shaw stepped down from the Stanford job in 2022 after he spent over a decade as the head coach of the Cardinal. Coming up later today on 104.5 The Zone, Titans quarterback Will Levis will be in studio with the 3HL crew from 3 to 4 o'clock. Be sure to tune in. 3HL coming up after B-Hop and Joe Hunk. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Happy Thursday and welcome into 104.5 The Zone. I am Joe Hunk. He is Brad Hopkins, and we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. If you're wondering where Blaine is on an excursion to go watch a friend of his get put into the Hall of Fame. That is where, and so Blaine will be back with us tomorrow afternoon. But in that period of time, we're going to talk a little bit with you as our phone lines are open. 615-737-1045. B-Hop. Today is Thursday. Let me emphasize this for everybody that might have been off yesterday.
Is that how we're starting this? Oh, my God.
Because B-Hop walks in as we start sitting here and talking about what's coming up on the show today, and the first thing he does, he looks at me and goes, "So, how was your weekend?"
How's your weekend? I don't know why I even said that. It's the middle of the week.
And I did. I said, "B-Hop, it's Thursday."
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, crap, it is Thursday," because we all had yesterday off.
Yeah.
Every one of us did.
It totally jacked me up.
It messed you up because, again, I think that's the exact same way as you, because earlier in the day, I'm driving into work, and one thing that I always do on Mondays is, if you listen to Spotify, they have something called Discover Weekly.
Yeah.
And so every single week, they put out like a new playlist that's based on whatever songs you have saved, created in playlists. And so I'm like, oh, I get to remember some other songs that I may need to put into this. And sure enough, I go to it going, why is there not a new playlist this week? And I went, oh, crap. It's because today is Thursday. It is not Monday. So you're not the only one that has thought about this.
Yeah, we were celebrating Juneteenth yesterday.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, it felt more like a weekend because on the weekends, I normally do events for the NFL Alumni Association. Mm-hmm. The Tennessee chapter went down to the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, which is at the Lorraine Motel where Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Wait, you did that yesterday?
Did that yesterday with Javon Kearse, Lindell White, Chris Johnson, Al Smith, who was our chapter president, and myself. We signed autographs. We toured the museum, and the line was around the block for people that wanted to get in there. It was a moving situation, of course, but to be a part of that was awesome. And I love doing stuff like that.
This automatically thinks like I did not do anything with my life yesterday because you're doing this that is amazing, and it is a definite tourist. It's weird to say that's a tourist attraction.
Yeah,
is it weird to say that?
It's very educational. First off, because there's a lot of history that we just don't talk about, and this kind of lays it out there.
Yeah,
and the fact that it was preserved, by some people that saw this kind of being destroyed and moved away like anything else that has happened and transpired over, the generations
Absolutely.
of the country. But either way, just to have those, they talked about the March on Selma. They showed you obviously the march on the Capitol. Of course, how even slavery came to be in this country. So it was just a part of it. And the reason why we had off yesterday was to kind of commemorate
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Yeah.
When it was finally recognized that the abolition of slavery actually did take place. So we went down there as a part of a little conglomerate, and got to thank the people that gave us the tour. It was awesome, and there was a lot of people that showed up. It was cool.
That is awesome. So you're doing that. You're doing something actually constructive with the holiday. I spent the entire day playing video games with my kids.
Yeah, that's cool, though.
And watching college baseball. That is all I did the entire day. Is I watched.
I did get the baseball in.
You did get the baseball.
Hey, listen, bro. This is the cool part. So I got the iPad working as I'm heading back down I-40, heading to Nashville. Tuned the game in. It was moved back an hour, right, because of the postponement of the A&M Florida game from the night before, right? Yep. So I got to watch at least the fourth inning on, or kind of listen to it. I'm actually telling on myself.
Yeah.
Because I did have the iPad going.
It's not like you're telling on somebody that doesn't do this all the time.
Okay.
I mean, if anybody is guilty of watching television while driving, we have said numerous times that I do this. So anyway, I'm not judging.
But listen, I love the fact that we have something to talk about that is of significance. The fact that the number one ranked team, which Tennessee has held that ranking, that distinction for much of the year, right, has now culminated in them playing in a College World Series for the first time since the 50s, bro.
Since 1951.
Man. 1951
was the last time that Tennessee was in this as what they are now. And so now the series is going to start on Saturday. Well, I think we're about to figure out who's going to be starting for Tennessee in this. As you were talking, Jackson just got an update as well. What was that update, Jackson?
No, I was going to see if you knew who threw out the first pitch when Tennessee last played in the College World Series.
Oh my
finals.
God.
1951. Here's the kicker for this, okay? Here's the kicker. 1951 is going to get brought up a bunch on the show today for numerous reasons, okay? One of which is obviously with the Vols. The other thing is happening down in Birmingham with Rickwood Field, which we'll talk a little bit about that later. But who threw out the first pitch? 1951, I mean, I'm going to Roosevelt. I don't know.
General Neyland.
Wait, for real?
Oh,
yes.
Shut up. Neyland Stadium, General Neyland?
Like Neyland,
Yes.
like he went to Omaha and threw out the first pitch for that? Was it in Omaha?
I believe it was.
Wow, he threw out the first pitch.
Dang.
No, I mean, again, I thought Roosevelt. I had no idea about the
All right, Jackson, what did he throw? Did he throw a slider?
Was it
Did he
strike?
What did he throw? I'm joking.
He threw a baseball.
I mean, there's times we need to know this information.
Facts are a stubborn thing, bro.
Especially whenever you have to do this for the Nashville Sounds. You've heard about it. Every person on the station that has had to throw out the first pitch for there, we judge you based on if you throw a strike or not.
Jackson, could you throw a strike?
110%.
You lie
He
like
is
a rug.
such a liar. He is such a liar.
All the pressure on you, and this is from a big league mound, too. None of this sissy stuff. We're going to have to get you up there on a big league mound. Can you throw a strike?
Absolutely. Accuracy is my strong suit.
Okay.
He says that's what it is.
I like
so you got to watch the games while coming back from Memphis yesterday. Now you watched the Vols game, and
I did watch A&M in Florida.
The A&M Florida game.
Yep.
Which Florida had to do something that is so extremely difficult to do to begin with, is you play in the morning when it was like 95 degrees in Omaha. You then have to take 4 hours off. So your body gets stiff. You have to go back out, stretch, try to, your body, all the blood circulating wet. And then you had to play another baseball game. And it's extremely difficult for what they had to do. And then you got to see both of those games on there. So you got to see Caglianone's very final game as a Florida Gator.
Yep.
There's no way on earth this man's going to be a two-way player in Major League Baseball.
You don't think so?
No, he can't. It's a thing that if they're up by 10 runs and they want to put a position player in, that's the guy you're going to choose to do eventually. But he's somewhat decent as a pitcher. He's too good of a hitter to be able to focus on both. Like with Shohei Ohtani, which is the example that we all obviously pay attention to the most. With Shohei, he's dominant as a pitcher and he's dominant as a hitter. Like the man in one season could win the Cy Young and MVP award in the exact same season. That's how good he is. So that's not the case with Caglianone. So when he goes to the majors, he needs to just focus on hitting. That's the foregone conclusion with him on that.
What do you mean, just being a DH?
Well, no, not just DH. I mean, he can play the field, but you're not going to want him on the mound. Because even looking at his first game that he pitched in the College World Series, he didn't even last an inning.
Right.
Because he got rocked. And you saw the same thing his last start. Once you start seeing these teams playing each other for a second time, or you're starting to see them when you're playing the top 5 or 6 teams in the country, that's when you really started seeing it for him. And with Caglione, decent pitcher, but do not make him a pitcher in Major League Baseball. He needs to just focus on being a hitter. If he focuses on being just a hitter, he's a Major League player. If he tries to do both, he will not make it.
I just love some of the narratives that we're hearing coming from this team that has done something that the 2022 team couldn't do. Seemingly a more talented team, but this is a team that has kind of generated the idea of family. Mm-hmm. When I hear the stories about Xander Seacrest and how close he is to Kirby Connell and him giving way for Kirby to kind of close things out and lend way to them getting to the College World Series, that's a microcosm of who this team is. Mm-hmm. They're buddies.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about it. You know, it's not like you saw Xander with a fat lip, mad because he could only go 6 innings.
Because he wanted to finish it. He wanted to.
He's like, no. Let's talk about this. Let me tell you what's going on. And he handed the ball off to him with some, instruction a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way this whole thing has worked. I listened to Blake Burke, as sleepy as he sounded this morning.
I'm sure that, look, they have a few days off. They had fun last night.
He was still entertaining, very entertaining.
Yeah.
And just talking about how Tony Vitello, and this was the cool part, how he lets them be themselves. Okay, so think about that. When you're in a room, sometimes someone changes the atmosphere. I don't know if it was Allen Iverson or one of these great guys said, hey, we were all hanging out All-Star weekend. Everybody's having a great time. We're kicking it. All these All-Stars together. Then Michael Jordan came into the room. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And somehow that just changes the atmosphere, right? Well, guess what? Tony isn't changing the atmosphere. Those guys are free to be themselves, and it draws them closer together as a unit, as a team. So they are well-wishers of each other. And this is probably why I feel like they're in the best capable position that they can be to give the Vols, a College World Series championship.
And you said something interesting a second ago that made me think of...
Just one thing?
Well, no, you said a few. Again, I'm still a fan of the fact that you watch TV while driving. But the one thing that I thought about is you mentioned that this team compared to the 2022 team. And X's and O's wise, I would love, if there was possible, to see those two teams play each other, because in a way I will say that I think the 2022 team is a better baseball team than what this one is, but this team is so much closer, and they have the chemistry that they would win. I mean, look, that Vols team in 2022, you have 2 players now at the least that are up in the majors with Trey Lipscomb and Jordan Beck. That's just from the hitting side of things. They're already in the major leagues. You have a pitcher that's about to get drafted probably in the top 10 in Chase Burns that was on that one as well. And you start going through Chase Dolander, who's a big prospect for the Rockies as well. Like, you have so many good players from that Tennessee Vols team that was not able to get to the College World Series and win it like this one is. I think this is a better team overall, but when it comes to talent, I would almost say 2022 is a more talented team than what we're seeing in this 2024 team.
Jim freaking Nance on the F&M Bank chat, if you're tuning in on YouTube, he had a great statement. He said he's a chameleon, talking about Tony Vitello. He's a chameleon type of coach that adapt to his team's personality.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, isn't that what a good coach should do? Like, you see your players and you change your coaching style based on the players.
To quote the great Draymond Green.
Wow.
There's some tongue-in-cheek.
There's no way on earth that sentence should ever be said.
The man did say, know your audience.
Yes.
If you're a leader, if you're trying to communicate something, know who the heck you're talking to and how to talk to them.
Which is why here in just a second we're going to talk to Buck Reising, because we know our audience and we know that 3 hours just isn't enough. Buck Reising's coming up here in about 7 minutes. You also have the general manager and the senior vice president of Nashville Super Speedway coming on at 1:45, Matt Grieche. He's going to talk to us about the Ally 400 that's going to be happening this week. He is Brad Hopkins. I am Joe Hunk. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nashville, summer storms are making a splash, and I'm not just talking about the rain. So act now and keep your family comfortable throughout any storm. It's time to shield your home with the surge protection and score $50 off when you book now with Cool Ray. And are you feeling a little with the electrical panels are stuck in the Stone Age? Well, upgrade now and save $200 with our sizzling summer promotion. And let's bring your home into the 21st century. And you can also dive into Cool Ray's plumbing summer promos. Replace that old water heater and score $500 off a tankless one or $250 off a tanked model. Worried about what's lurking in your water? Well, get peace of mind with free water quality testing, and it's on the house. Got slow drains bring you down? Let Cool Ray tackle them with $93 free drain cleaning. And Cool Ray can't clear your drain? Well, it's on them. Let's make your summer a breeze and visit coolray.com or call us today at 615-237-1603. That's 237-1603 to snag all these sizzling deals. That's Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and lights bright.
Continuing on this Thursday, 104.5 The Zone, Brad Hopkins, and with myself, Joe Hunk, brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. You can watch the show on Zone TV, simply going to YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch, and you can watch it there. And I'm not going to call him out by name, but Buck's about to be on with us, so I feel like this is something Buck would do. The entire time that the Vols have been going through the College World Series, and not just the College World Series, but the NCAA tournament, whether it was regionals, super regionals, no matter what it was, we had one listener that no matter who they were playing, always picked the other team. Like it was when the Vols were playing in the super regionals, Vols are going to lose it in 2, or Vols are going to lose in 3. When it was them versus Florida State to start the College World Series, it was Vols are going to lose to Florida State in the first game. And then I look on our F&M Bank chat, and the first thing I see is this listener saying Vols in 2. You've literally been against the Vols the entire time. You have been hating on the Vols the whole time. And you now come in and say Vols on 2. That being said, Buck Reising joins us. Buck, would that be something that you would have done, calling out a listener on the fact that they have been against that one team the entire time, and now they're on the bandwagon?
What's the matter, Buck? A guy can't change his mind?
Oh, no, I'm completely in support of bandwagoning. Good on that person. Ride, play for the winning team, baby. I'm a front runner. I completely identify with that human being.
Exactly. You know how many people saw the Music City Miracle, Buck? 5 million.
Not nearly as
the
many.
The stadium seats 67,000. Yeah.
How many people were in the stadium? There were 5 million people in the stadium that day.
That's right. That's exactly right. No, it's always convenient. None of us are held accountable, especially for predictions. So why not let that guy be a part of the fun?
No, and see, like again, we're now in this period of time as well because we're a little over a month away from Tennessee starting training camp, and now a lot of the focus is, okay, where can this team improve? And I know that you guys at A to Z Sports have talked a lot about Breland Sparks. Is there any legitimacy to this whole idea that the Titans could be looking at the defensive lineman?
Breland Speaks is an edge rusher who most recently played for the Michigan Panthers, which is one of the spring league teams. And a colleague of mine at A to Z Sports, Mike Payton, had reported that the Titans were one of 2 teams potentially interested in him. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. They don't have anybody to play edge besides Harold that you trust. I mean, Arden Key's a 2-down player. That's who he's been his entire career. Weaver has had an opportunity when Harold tore his ACL to prove that he's more than just a rotational guy, and perhaps things have changed. I know he's taking the opportunity very seriously, but last time that we saw Rashad Weaver, he wasn't a complete player. So, your only addition at edge this offseason was Jalen Harrell, a 7th-round pick. They should absolutely be in the market for edge guys, just as they should be in the market for offensive linemen at any given point.
Buck, how did the Titans leave, basically the feeling with you heading into training camp? Once they finished OTAs, once they finished the organized team activities coming together, over the summertime, how did they leave you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they checked most of the boxes that they absolutely had to heading to this off season. The sweat thing is worth paying attention to. I don't think it's you don't need to lose your mind or freak out or question his work ethic or all these other things that people are very quick to fly to extremes about just based on the first month of him being here. But it's definitely a situation to monitor, just like Snead is a situation to monitor, because I know he had to be managed at Kansas City. Clearly have a management program for him here, and until it impacts his game time play, I don't really care about whatever his knee situation needs to be managed as long as it's managed properly. So there's a lot of things to like about what they did, and nobody can lose really in the off season unless you're really stupid and manage to be one of these 6 weeks, one of these news stories in the next 6 weeks where there's nothing else to talk about but arrests and other behavior that ends up in the headlines when football players don't have anything to do. Yeah. But, I feel pretty good about them.
Hopefully not here in Nashville. Hey, listen, I don't know about you, buddy, but there hasn't been much conversation about the backfield. Neither one of these dudes, whether it's Tony Pollard or Tyjae Spears, have been, quote unquote, the guy, to exclusively take over a backfield. And I know that it's not how they're going to use them exclusively, but why are there not so many more questions about the backfield and how Brian Callahan will use them?
Well, God knows the coaching staff won't shut up about them. I mean, that's the position group that Brian Callahan said he was arguably the most excited to work with, is because of the versatility that the two of them bring together within the system, because they've just had such a dead giveaway at running back for so long, and that's great when you can do it better than anybody and nobody can stop you. And Derek was that for a long stretch of time, to his credit. But I think they're excited about the idea of having a couple of running backs that can both be deployed outside of just in the backfield, and that are similar enough in skill set that you don't really have to give away what you're running based on your formation or your personnel, and kind of give you, a bunch of different looks out of the same personnel groupings, which is an offensive coordinator's dream. Now, I think there should be reasonable questions around Pollard, who there's more of a sample size on, to be honest. And we had Nate Tice on from Yahoo last week. We talked about the idea of Tony Pollard basically being boom or bust as a running back in his career. But if you can supplement it with a guy like Spears, who is legitimately a 3-down running back and thrived when he got touches, not just carries, last season, then I think you can buy on the idea of him as an ascending player.
Buck, we saw, and I found a stat about the secondary now. We've known how the secondary is needed to improve the past few seasons, about the passing yards given up against them. And I see some people are actually talking about the secondary being one of the top 10 in the NFL. What do you think about that?
Based on what they haven't played. I mean, I don't care about top 10 lists, especially off-season top 10 lists. Be available. Like if Snead's, an All-Pro in 2024, stick. Love that for them. But if he's not, he has to be just available, because the thing that made the biggest difference for Kansas City, he played in 16 of the 17 games. Whatever his knee situation is, they successfully managed it to make him that level of available. And Awuzie, who tore his ACL a couple of years ago, but had 3 pretty decent seasons in Cincinnati, played in 15 games last year, and it just gives him a level of consistency. They haven't just been bad here, they've been hurt. You've had a different corner lineup, it feels like, every time you look up, going back to, I feel like, the 2020 season, with the way that they haven't been able to kind of nail down a consistent group. And you could speak to any number of positions that way. But, yeah, I mean, I don't care about Snead's Super Bowl championships if I'm a Titans fan, because he didn't win them here. I don't care about top 10 lists just because they paid him a bunch of money. They need to go out and perform.
Is it bad for me to want to ask you about the backup quarterback? Like, I really do. Like, the fact that we're talking about 18 games could be coming up. ESPN just dropped a survey of them surveying players about how many players are for or against the 18-game schedule. But then my thought process is there's most likely, outside of one quarterback last year, every starting quarterback missed at least one game in 2024. And so now we're here, and we've talked a lot about Will Levis and the offense, but what about Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's going to play. He's going to play at some point, just by percentage. I think in the last 2 seasons, at least 66 different quarterbacks have started games for NFL teams, which is absurd. But to your point about the expanded regular season, that one football game extra does make a huge bit of difference, especially when there's really not that good of offensive line play league-wide. There's probably 10 teams that feel great about their offensive line situation. The rest are just trying to hold it together long enough to get the ball off. So, yeah, I think Mason Rudolph is worth paying attention to. It's his job, and unless something miraculous happens with Malik Willis in training camp, and it could. I don't want to discount him before it happens, because he made a significant leap from his first training camp to his second last year. But right now, it's Mason Rudolph's job.
He is Buck Reising joining us here with I was going to say Blaine. I'm not Blaine. That's Joe Hunk. I'm Brad Hopkins. Hey, listen. I listened to a little bit what you and Lucas were talking about the schedule, and by 2028, will they be playing 18 games? And I'm of the opinion, Buck, that they actually will be playing 18 games, and it wouldn't be as much pushback from the union as you might think. I think in this situation, everyone wins. I think that people that are in the fan base that basically are trying to afford to go to games, making sure that the players that they would want to see are there playing on the football field versus paying full ticket price for a preseason game of which no one's playing in, right? So there's more revenue, and of course there's basically more games that are worth watching. So I think in the end, basically they will move to almost what Blaine was talking about last week, Joe, when he said that there won't be a quote-unquote preseason. Right. There'll just be joint practices because you get extremely competitive situations that are preparing you for the year, and then you go into games. All the games mean something rather than playing a dress rehearsal of a game. What do you think?
No, I think Blaine's idea definitely has legs. It makes the most sense as the ultimate goal. So yeah, well, I mean, eventually we're going to go to an 18-game regular season, and I would be surprised if the Titans were playing in their new stadium in 2027 or whenever it ends up opening. But I know they expect it to open by 2027 if we're not playing an 18-game schedule by then. So the 2 buys obviously makes a huge difference for players. I think that the thing that's going to have to be worked through on the players' union side, Brad, and I don't have first-hand experience of this, but just talking to guys, is that older, more established, closer to star caliber players would be more reticent to go along with a plan like this, where younger guys or guys hungrier for opportunities are going to be all for it because it just means, potentially expanded rosters, more games, more potential for injury, unfortunately, which means more opportunities throughout the course of the season. Just the difference that expanding the practice squad made during COVID and how NFL teams have kind of manipulated that to try to sustain. They're going to have a number of different things in place, but yeah, ultimately, I think I think the league would love to get rid of the preseason.
Yeah, more bodies. I like what you're just talking about there, the expanding of the practice roster and whatever else, and also turning those preseason checks that might be some thousands of dollars to millions of dollars because of them being real games. I think that might be the future.
Sure.
Buck, what have you been forced to talk about more during this offseason, the offensive line or whatever Lucas is watching when it comes to soccer?
Line. I'd rather talk about soccer than line stuff at this point. I would rather take a drill bit to my temple than talk about more offensive line. Pre and post draft stuff. I've been talking about offensive linemen needing to succeed or not succeed for 5 straight off seasons. So I'd love to go a day without talking about offensive line. I think we did that today.
Well, see, and that's the reason why I'm asking you isn't to talk about the offensive line, but I know that when you go out to practice and you go looking at things, we are all wanting to ask you offensive line, quarterback play, offensive scheme. But when you're out there, what are you noticing that's like, wait a second, this is a lot more something I need to be paying attention to or people should be paying attention to other than the offensive line or quarterback play?
Nothing, because those are the 2 things that they should be paying the most attention to. Those are the only things that matter for the success of this season, really. And that is the place that all of us are just staring at Bill Callahan. I don't even know, like we're paparazzi at this point, just following around this shuffling old man while he barks commands at giant human beings pushing sleds. Like that's all any of us are watching at this point. So I mean, I got asked about James Williams, the off-ball linebacker, and I had to just straight up say, to be honest, I haven't looked at him for hardly a second because we've been watching receivers, offensive line, and quarterback play this offseason.
I was trying to give you
a lot longer. We'll have more time.
I tried to give you an opportunity to just open about punt and kickoff returners, like something. I was trying to give you that, and you're like, nope.
It doesn't matter.
And you know what, though, Buck?
That's what matters.
The funny thing is, though, Buck, and no questions have been answered about all the things that you're talking about with offensive line. You know why? Because these guys aren't bumping into each other. Until Correct. They can start getting physical, until they can start showing leverage, until they can start being fit, doing what offensive linemen do, it's a dress rehearsal in shorts. That's all it is.
Listen, Brad, we should all be given medals for stretching out sled talk.
Oh my
that doesn't actually mean anything as far as the starting 5 for September 8th at Chicago. The fact that we got a month out of sled talk, give us a Peabody or whatever radio people win.
Well, how about this?
Is that what we win?
I want to switch gears with you real quick because you did have a great conversation with Blake Burke. As sleepy as he did sound, he still gave us some good morsels there. I just think that this being a different team than the 2022 team, Buck, the one that we're watching in Omaha, it just seems more familial. it just seems like these cats are playing at a different level because they understand the importance of playing together. I'm not saying that there was a bunch of isolated stars on that 2022 team because they were very talented, but it seems like maybe Tony has understood maybe some errors of his ways and how he communicates, how he coaches, because he's got these kids really believing in themselves.
Hey, it's an interesting concept, right? Because, I love the idea of guys like Blake Burke, who was sleepy today, but that's all right. He was good enough.
All right.
And Christian Moore being on the 2022 team, being young on that team, going through, you can have the individual star moment. Like those guys are clearly star players, high-level players. And in the case of Christian Moore, he's a first-round draft pick. So, they're going to get their moment, and they had a moment in 2022, and they were the most hated thing in the country. And I don't think that's bad for you as a part of the growth experience, because this team with a lot of those guys, or a couple of those guys that were around and who can kind of, navigate the more difficult parts that they didn't expect or weren't prepared for the first time around, you can actually see that growth. And that's what I think we're seeing from the team, from Vitello, and the idea that they're doing it together successfully, continually as a unit, and continue to have the team elements of doing it for each other while still being star players is the biggest difference. They're just a better collective team.
Do they have to win the College World Series, Buck?
Hell yes. Hell yeah. You got to be talking college baseball right now. If we're going to spend this much time talking college baseball, you better damn win the thing.
So what if they don't win it?
Well, then we'll talk. We'll fire everybody.
Come on, man. You can't fire everybody because it's been a great year, regardless of them winning a championship. But I don't know what the narrative.
I'm just going to play.
Yeah,
Brad, we have a promo for this. Jackson, in fact, you can play me out with this. We have a promo for specifically that kind of disease that's specific to Tennessee Vols fans. I don't know, Brad, if you're familiar with battered Vols syndrome.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the thought that no matter how good it is, it's going to go bad at some point in time.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is a medically diagnosed and treatable situation, which is fortunate because we had some promotional material put together, in effect, for people dealing with BBS. So I think that would be the
Do you suffer from flashbacks to a blocked field goal in 2009? Or wake up in a cold sweat thinking about a 2015 Oklahoma game? If this is describing you might suffer from battered Vols syndrome. Millions of people worldwide are affected by BVS. Symptoms include anticipating the worst-case scenario in every situation, shortness of breath in the fourth quarter, or nightmares about the Florida Gators. Let's hear from one former Vols season ticket holder who was affected by BVS so dramatically they had to change their collegiate fandom. Their voice has been altered to protect their identity.
I don't even know how this happened, man. We were doing so good with Peyton, and now every time I walk into Cracker Barrel and see them kids playing on them checkerboards, I just don't know what to do. I swear, man, I'll be watching football sometimes and they'll have a 12-man on the field penalty and wham! I'm right back there and North Carolina's about to kick that field goal to take the lead and win in overtime, and I just can't take it. I root for the Hilltoppers just so I can have some sanity on football Saturday.
Tragic. Absolutely tragic. If you or a loved one suffers from BVS, do something today. For more information, call 615-737-1045. And remember, go Vols.
Is that what you were talking about?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
All right, Buck. We appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much. And yes, we will try to and hopefully not have to deal with BVS on Monday, man. So thank you so much.
Buck Reising.
Hey, boys.
All right, sir. He is Buck Reising. You obviously can follow him on X at Buck Reising. When we come back, let's talk a little bit NASCAR as the Senior VP and General Manager of Nashville Super Speedway. The Ally 400 is coming to town. We'll talk to Matt Grieche about this coming up in 5 minutes right here on 104.5 The Zone.
This summer, NASCAR is back at Nashville Superspeedway, June 28th through the 30th for Ally 400 race weekend. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. From the campgrounds to the track, and you won't want to miss the excitement. This is the fourth year that Ally has been the entitlement sponsor of the Ally 400. The first Ally 400 in 2021 was the first NASCAR Cup Series race at Nashville Superspeedway since 1984. So be there this year and be part of history in the making. And in the previous 3 years, Ally 400, there have been 3 different winners. So come see who will take the checkered flag this year. And true music fashion, city fashion, Ally 400 will have a pre-race concert with a soon-to-be-determined artist. And more details to come. So get your tickets now to watch your favorite drivers take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. So visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot at the Rackley Roofing 200, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Ally 400 right now, today.
Continuing on 104.5 The Zone, he is Brad Hopkins. I am Joe Hunk. Blaine is in Indiana. A friend of his is going into the Hall of Fame. He'll talk more about that tomorrow when he is back here at 1 o'clock. You can always get in on Zone TV and get your comments in, which a lot of people are in the F&M Bank chat right now talking about BVS. Another thing happening is the fact that we've got a race coming up here in just a few days. The Ally 400 is happening here in Nashville, and we are joined right now by the Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Nashville Super Speedway, Matt Grieche. And Matt, you know, looking at the Super Speedway, you've been here since the very moment that it started to transition into what it is today. For you seeing the changes with the Super Speedway, even from last season, like what all has changed for you guys as you're getting ready for the Ally 400?
Well, I think as we, Nashville as a whole continues to grow, we do here at Nashville Super Speedway as well. And I think with that is a lot more family-friendly entertainment options throughout the calendar year. You know, we're a short drive down from Nashville out here in Lebanon, Tennessee, but great infrastructure, 700 acres, good ingress, egress, and we continue to build on the family-friendly fan atmosphere that we've got. But we are super excited to host the NASCAR triple-header weekend here at Nashville Super Speedway next weekend.
Well, and with it happening next weekend, like I've spent a lot of time around Talladega, and I know that like the week leading up to this race, it's extremely hectic trying to finalize things. Like, how is it for you guys as you're starting to get to that last stretch of only being in single digits away from the race?
Yeah, we're 6 short days away from welcoming our first campers onto the grounds next Wednesday, which brings us into just a full prep mode, you know, painting and build outs and making sure we are ready to host a great fan-friendly environment all weekend. And we're prepared, but we're in the last stretch here.
Matt, I'm telling you what, you got an amazing story, bro. It'd almost be as if Rand Carthon started out in the sales department and then worked his way up from an intern to being a general manager of a franchise. It's incredible to see you now in a position like you started out in Charlotte, the 16 years that you spent there. What in the world did a Connecticut kid find intriguing about NASCAR?
Well, I know Connecticut's probably not synonymous in the mainstream of racing or NASCAR, but I grew up around the motorsports in the Northeast and went to short tracks throughout my childhood and cut my teeth on that, but then had a great opportunity to join the Charlotte Motor Speedway staff as an intern and stuck around and through my career and through the ranks. And Speedway Motorsports is a great company, and when we had the opportunity to, myself and my family, move over here and help build this great property and join the team here. And we're enjoying Middle Tennessee, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that the company has provided me, but more grateful to see all the fans that come into our property.
Were there things that you were doing at Charlotte that you just said, you know what, we need to do this here in Nashville? It's not being done. We need to either add it, we need to for the fan experience, or just to the track itself?
I think it's a lot of the fan experience. I think, you know, the track is great. I think, you know, keeping some of our, policies and the fan first mentality as far as what we do in Speedway Motorsports and welcoming fans and appreciative of them coming to here and enjoying their race weekend and taking a lot of the best practices across our company that we host 15 NASCAR Cup Series weekends throughout the year, throughout our company, and taking those best practices and bringing them here is the great opportunity that we have.
Matt, back in 2021, the Ally 400 raced here for the first time in 36 years. It just kind of makes sense that NASCAR returns to Nashville. Why did it take so long for them to get back here?
I think they're just waiting for the build-up. I think the Nashville continues to grow, and Nashville is great for NASCAR, and NASCAR is great for Nashville, and it's one of the hottest entertainment destinations in the world. And for it to be added to the NASCAR schedule in 2021, it's got a long and bright future to stay here, and we won't see that gap in the calendar year anytime soon.
Matt, what's the biggest difference in NASCAR throughout the years that you've actually been associated with the sport?
You know, there's always just the ebb and flow of, drivers. I think what you see now is some of the most diverse and exciting racing that has been on the racetrack, and seeing a lot of the younger drivers now that come from different backgrounds is putting on great product on the racetrack with the next gen car. But you also see it in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and just the amount of competition that we're going to see here at Nashville Superspeedway next weekend for all three of our races is going to be unparalleled.
He's the Senior Vice President and General Manager at Nashville Superspeedway. Matt Gricci joins us right now. Has any of the non-Chevrolet teams started talking to you guys about the fact that we're going into year 4, and so far Chevrolet's the only manufacturer that has won at the track?
No, I think everybody's clamoring to get out there and get that checkered flag and see that Gibson guitar in victory lane, and I'm sure those Toyota and Ford drivers are trying to take down that bow tie in the Chevrolet teams, and I think they'll have some competition come next Sunday.
Who should we be looking at this weekend, Matt? I mean, I know you can't play favorites, but I know you're keeping your eye to the ground to find out what's going on. But obviously, as the Rackley Roofing 200 starts this weekend, or excuse me, the next weekend on the 28th, who are some drivers that we need to be paying close attention to?
Well, I think, speaking of the Rackley Roofing 200, Dawson Sutton in the Rackley Chevrolet truck will be out there for his first race here at Nashville Superspeedway. Young 18-year-old kid coming up that's got great future ahead of him. But then you got on the polar spectrum there is Clint Boyer getting back behind the wheel on Friday night for the Rackley Roofing 200 as well. And he's taking a break from the microphone and getting back behind the wheel. So I think that's definitely an exciting one to look at for Friday, June 28th. And then, come Sunday for the Ally 400, I think it's been a very diverse crowd that's come through the winner circle each and every race weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a new race winner that has not been to victory lane this year. I think the competition is that close that I think the odds are pretty even across probably the top 12 or 16 to get a race winner here.
Before we let you go, I know the fan experience is something that you talked about changing in with Charlotte and bringing some stuff in here. What is something that some of these fans should be looking forward to when they do go to that fan zone that you guys have created for the event?
Yeah, so we've got a great speedway experience, an Echo Park Speedway experience. It's right in the fan zone all weekend long. It's being programmed with music, driver appearances, and then Sunday, Kenny Wallace and John Roberts are going to host Trackside Live. That we're going to have some great drivers out there, and then you come into pre-race, get a track access upgrade where you can get stage front for the driver introductions. You can be 15 feet from your favorite drivers that are going to announce minutes before they hit the green flag for the Ally 400.
Can you tell me what X-Pogo is?
Yeah, so X-Pogo, a lot of YouTube channels. I think the young kids do it. They'll be bouncing around and doing flips and stunts in the fan zone. We've also got some motorcycle stunt teams that'll be out in the fan zone. All that's free for our guests to come enjoy throughout the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the fan zone. Driver appearances, merchandise opportunities, great food and beverage options. It's going to be an action-packed weekend.
So what'd you say, Matt? You had 4 tickets that we'll call for Joe and I?
Yeah, come on out. We'd love to see you guys.
I just want to do the X-Pogo. I just want to hop in. Is there any way we can get you doing the X-Pogo?
As long as you guys sign waivers, you're in.
All right, Matt Gricci, thank you so much, man. I know you guys are getting close to race day. It's 10 days until the Ally 400, man. So thank you so much for hopping on and letting our listeners know a little bit more about what they're going to see when they get to the track.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets today. We can't wait to see everybody next weekend.
Nice.
See you, Matt. He is Matt Gricci for the Senior Vice President and General Manager at the Nashville Superspeedway. We come back, hour number 2. Phone lines are wide open as we want to hear about the VBS because the BVS, not the VBS. We're not talking about Christian churches right now. We're talking about BVS as it is time to talk about those Vols and Tony Vitello. 615-737-1045.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop. I want you to know that if you ever heard of peptides. There are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies, and as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. And maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake even in the evenings. So if you have that thought that this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. And peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are safe, naturally occurring aminos and not pharmaceuticals. A natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. So go to edgepeptide.com. That's edgepeptide.com, or you can call them at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Joe Hunk. Over the course of the last 4 years, Denzel Mims has had multiple homes. He was a Jet, he was a Lion, and he was a Steeler. And now he is a Jaguar, as the Steelers waived him just about 3 days ago. And just a few moments ago, the Jaguars made the signing official as he has been added to the team. And how much do you love the NCAA basketball tournament? Do you love it enough that you want to add more teams? Because the NCAA has presented all of the Division I commissioners with 3 different packages about the potential expansion of the men and women's tournament by adding 4 teams, 8 teams, or just leaving the current tournament as it is. For all your foundation repair waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Vols, the flagship station for your Tennessee Titans. This is 104.5 The Zone. Second hour, final hour here on 104.5 The Zone, as I am Joe Hunk. He is Brad Hopkins, and we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, as Blaine Bishop is out today. He is in Indiana for a Hall of Fame ceremony. He'll talk more about that tomorrow. It's not his, it's a buddy of his. It's going to be that's going into the Hall of Fame. It being a little after 2 o'clock also means that we are within 60 minutes now of QB1 being on 3HL. As Will Levis is going to be in studio with the show coming up at directly 3 o'clock. So you do not want to miss that, as that is going to be happening. And QB1, not just on the phone, he's coming in studio to hang out, as Slay is back as well from the beach or wherever he went for a honeymoon. Did they actually go on a honeymoon as Zeph is in the other room? Or did they just hang out in L.A. for a couple of days? What happened?
So, according to Slay, he just was kind of wandering around doing his own thing, celebrating his wedding. So, congrats to him and Chris. But I don't know. He did not go on a honeymoon. I think they're doing that next
Later
year.
on, yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Vacation.
They get married and then he gets to go do his own thing? Like, that's
No.
legit?
I think they were together.
Oh, I was about to say.
They were just kind of floating
Joseph,
around.
stop. Look what you starting here, man. You got everybody thinking that Ron dished his
No.
They got married.
Hunk's trying to get me in trouble here. They were
Yeah, he
together.
is.
Slay's like, yeah, he goes, yeah.
Well, you didn't
Slay
mention
did his
Slay's
own
wife.
thing.
You didn't mention Chris.
No,
you
he
just
just
mentioned that
said-
Slay just ran off and started doing his own thing.
Started doing his own thing. Like, he just went down. He was down there at the beach. He just whatever, just
Exactly.
hang out. I'm like,
Just chilling.
man.
All I know is Slay had a fantastic time, and we're all very happy for him and Chris.
Yes.
Congratulations.
But he's back in studio.
Yeah.
Him, Will Levis, obviously Brent and Dawn are all going to be in studio, as that's going to be happening at 3 o'clock coming up here in just a little bit. Also, if you just missed it in the top of the hour update, the NCAA has said, all right, we're going to present all of the commissioners of all the different conferences 3 different proposals. A 4-team addition to the tournament, to the NCAA basketball tournament for both the men and the women, an 8-team addition, or let's just keep it as it is. Let's just keep it as it is. The weird thing about it is if you turn it around and look at what's happening now in college baseball, there were 11 SEC teams that made it into the NCAA baseball tournament. It's obviously different because of the fact that you have regionals and super regionals and then the College World Series. But you had 11 SEC teams make it into the tournament, and you're down to the final 2 teams, and those are SEC teams on this. So do we think that this is going to improve, give more teams the options? Because we're doing this in college football, and it's not like this is going to make the product better.
In basketball, I could see, because length means something on the hardwood, right? Size does matter in football, but it does also matter in this sport. And those smaller schools just don't have 7-footers. Just don't have guys that play above the rim on average, like some of these SEC schools and teams that are obviously competing for a national championship. But who cares if there's another play-in weekend, or if there's more teams in that round that could then catch lightning in the bottle?
Well, see, and I think for me, where I struggle with this is, I know a lot of people love the Cinderella upset.
Right.
You get the upset in the first round. You tune in the second round because this team's made it, and you kind of want to watch them, and either they'll lose in the round of 32 or they make it to Sweet 16. But how many times do we then get to Sweet 16 and then the basketball games are awful? Like, you have games that are like 15, 20-point games because the team that they're going, because you have to settle down. It goes back to like what we talked about with Tennessee. They got through the first game against Florida State. They settled down and look at how they have played through the remainder of the tournament after beating Florida State that first time. They've calmed down. They have played much better over the last few games than what they did against Florida State in the first, I'll say, 5 innings of play. Because there's something about playing in the first game. You play in your first game, everything looks different, even though you've taken batting practice in the stadium. You still have to get used to the atmosphere. It's a little bit different. It's a bigger stadium. A lot of teams are not used to like a true second deck. You know, the difference between minor league baseball and Major League Baseball is the third deck. So it takes a little bit. With the college basketball, it's a bigger arena. You got to get used to it. But then once you get in the second round or the third and fourth round, it's like,
Then Zach Edey takes over.
Well, then you have your Zach Edey's all the way until this. Okay, now if somebody gives him what we saw like in the championship game. Like for me, I'm not a Cinderella guy. It's cool for the first round, but then it like ruins a lot of the other tournament games because you've got a 14 seed playing a 3 seed or something, and then the 3 seed wins by 25 points.
I saw your comeback round against Florida State, and I raised you. Go back to Vandy, the first game against the SEC. That seems to me when Tennessee really started saying, hey, look, maybe they were pitching from the bullpen. Maybe they were trying to save some arms against going up against A&M that first round or whatever because what they thought we were going to get, they didn't get. But it seems like after that first loss to Tim Corbert's boys, they said, hey, you know what? We're not going to have this feeling. And we're going to make sure we take full advantage of this momentum that we've gotten to this point to not only get to Omaha, but make a difference when we get there.
Well, and that was the last time they played Omaha was that elimination round in Hoover, and they faced A&M's best pitcher. And it's a very similar strategy. They waited, they got him out of the ball game, and then once they got him out of the ball game, that's when they started scoring runs. It's the exact same thing like they did against Florida State. They didn't struggle. They struggled against a pitcher in Jamie Arnold that's going to be most likely a major league pitcher, maybe a first-round draft pick. So you can't say, well, it's horrible. No, they struggled against a very good pitcher. Then once he was out of the ball game, then they did damage. And now we're looking at Tony Vitello, and this whole conversation going into this tournament was, Tony Vitello, what does he need to do for Vols fans to finally be happy? You even asked Buck, hey, Buck, do they have to win the World Series championship now? Like, do they have to hoist the trophy? Is that a must win? What is it? Because battered Vol syndrome is real. And it's not just that you'll have battered Vol syndrome. You're doing it against an in-conference team. Now you have to play Texas A&M, which you've only seen one time this year. It's not like you've already played each other in a series somewhere.
But look how the Vols celebrated. How they celebrated going to the College World Series. Very businesslike. It's almost as if they went through the line, just shaking each other's hand, knowing that, hey, man, we got a lot more baseball to play. And even Blake Burke talked about that this afternoon, about his crying mama, right? And how she's going to be excited for him and how cool it was, whatever else. But he's like, you know what? We got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
It's a moment that we're going to relish for this one moment, but like a reason why I asked that question, I think that it's for naught. All of this is for naught if they don't win a championship and give Tony Vitello his first ring.
Man, I'm torn on that because the whole time I thought, if Vitello gets to the championship round, he's done enough. Like it's a step-by-step process. Like I look at, like going back to 2015 into 16, like with the Chicago Cubs. In 2014, the Chicago Cubs were absolute garbage of a team. In 2015, they made it to the playoffs, and Cubs fans were freaking out because they had all this young talent, and they're thinking, okay, like, are we going to win a World Series? It's like it's a step-by-step process. You want to get to the World Series, or you want to get to the NLCS, then to the World Series, and if you win it there, that's great. But then the Cubs made it to the NLCS in 2015 and got destroyed by one player, Daniel Murphy, and the New York Mets, who were hot at that point in time. And then the next year was World Series or bust. It was World Series or bust because we have to make the World Series. It wasn't win the World Series, it was make it there. I just wanted them to get to the finals because this is something that the Vols and Tony Vitello had struggled with so heavily in this. He had only won one game in Omaha as the head coach of the Vols. One game. He's already won, obviously, way more than that just in the few days that they've already been in Omaha going into this championship round.
I think the level of expectation that we have for Tony Vitello will show in his check, the one that we get for next year. Because they're going to realize the value of this dude and how easy or hard it is to put together rosters like the one we saw in 2022, like the one we're seeing this year. Like it seems like, from what Blake was talking about, their ability to play within themselves and feel comfortable in doing that allows him to go into any living room and say, hey, look, come play for us. We play for championships. Okay? Oh, nice.
Is this like an update on the
Man,
shots?
this is cool.
What is this?
No, this is the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, sweet heavens.
And J.J. Redick have agreed on a 4-year contract for him to become the next head coach of the Lakers.
Why'd you put your head down, Joe?
Because all I think of is, well, LeBron gave his thumbs up for this one, so the Lakers went and hired their guy.
What's funny about that?
Because I was like, look, I mean, I obviously Dan Hurley was option A, and Dan Hurley is a fantastic coach, but then you get the whole JJ Redick part of this, and look, I love the guy. Every single spot that JJ Redick has went to, the man has been a baller. It doesn't matter where he has been at, and you're seeing it even more with the Hulu series that's out with Clipped, because if somebody's playing JJ Redick and he's the cool white boy, like I get what everything is going on with him, okay? And he's extremely knowledgeable. But you cannot tell me that if LeBron did not say what he said on his podcast with JJ Redick, that Redick would have even been in contention for this. Like, there's no way. No way. It's literally LeBron signing off on this.
Well,
Like, I find it hard to believe it's not.
maybe we'll talk more about why the cool white boy makes sense in L.A. on the other side.
We've got people are talking about the battered Vols syndrome. Has Tony Vitello done enough? 615-737-1045. Get you in. He is Brad Hopkins. I am Joe Hunk. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. This is 1045 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready when the emergency pops up out of nowhere. And have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Well, some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and we mean right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
The Tennessee
Well, this just got fun the last 40 minutes of the show as J.J. Redick is officially the Lakers' next head coach. I am Joe Hunk, Brad Hopkins. We're brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. As we were talking, by the way, Blaine Bishop, he'll be back tomorrow as he is at a special event today. But we were talking about Tony Vitello and if he has done enough. Like you have Vols fans that just wanted him to perform well in the College World Series, and then now he is in the finals, and they're going to be taking on Texas A&M. It will be happening Saturday, is game one, and that is a lot of that. Then this news comes with J.J. Redick, which there's a side story to this that we'll get to in just a second, but as Brad, as you and I were talking, you got a text message about the Vitello stuff and about if he has done enough. What was that?
So my youngest son, Colin, he's a D1 catcher, played at Indiana, was Sportsman of the Year the year that he was there, and tried to do a little training camp in Florida. Didn't work out, and decided to move on. But he sent me a message just a few minutes ago that really resonated with me. He said Vitello hasn't done enough. He said that he needs to win it because he made it there. You don't get to the World Series aspiring just to get there. You have to want to win more than the other guy every day, every game. There's nothing to hang your hat on if you just get there. That sort of congratulations ends right when you punch your ticket to the championship because, like you said, you talk about me, there are bigger fish to fry. Contentment feeds satisfaction, and you have to be hungry to win something like that. I mean, he hit the nail on the head. I'm not putting any more pressure on Tony Vitello, but think about it. Does he have a problem put together the roster that can compete for a championship? No, because we've seen him do that. We've seen him position the Vols with the number one seed.
I mean, heck, when I was talking about the 2022 team, and I totally forget about Ben Joyce.
Right.
And Ben Joyce has been up and down with the Angels all season long. And like you have a lot of players that are just 2 years removed from that Vols team that is already playing in the major leagues, which does not happen very often. So we know he can bring talent in and continue to replenish it as it goes along. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And Colin's story kind of resonates with Kavarius Tears' story to me. Just hearing some of the backstory during the broadcast the other day about Kavarius' family following him to games that they knew he wasn't going to be able to play in. I remember sitting in some JUCO parks. I remember.
And there's not a lot of people
Kentucky.
at the JUCO parks, by the way. As somebody who played JUCO, there's not a lot of people there.
But we as a family were supporting Colin in his trek to try and become what he actually ultimately did become, which is a leader on a Division I team that, this dude had a walk-off against my alma mater. One of the proudest moments I've ever had as a dad. So hearing Kavarius' story and seeing how much of a key component he is, along with so many other guys, whether it's Cal Starks or, Billy Amick or, the list goes on and on. Blake Burke. Why do I keep wanting to call him Blake Bortles?
I don't know, because nobody in America is talking about Blake Bortles right now. Nobody in America is.
You know what? The thing is, I guess I haven't used the name Blake in such a long time that I just keep associating it with Blake Bortles. But either way, I
don't even know where Blake Bortles is in 2024. He's got to
be, he's obviously retired.
Yeah, no, because the last team he played for was the Saints in 2021. So it was such a good story to hear. And now that he's gotten his comeuppance, being a huge part of their winning, it's just a great story to show you, hey, look, just keep plugging at it. I think that's what his family was telling him. It's not your time just yet. And for it to become part of his time and to be able to be a part of it and recognize that, I remember those feelings. Oh, absolutely. Because, look, you're talking about the JUCO games. It's not hard to pick out your family when you're at the JUCO games. I mean, there are high school baseball games that take place in the state of Tennessee in the middle of February that there are more people at than there are some JUCO games. Yeah. I promise you that. Yeah. Those are just one set of bleachers on each side, and that's it. That's all you get. Like, there's not a lot of people there. And so to go from that to, like, say, the College World Series where you're playing in front of 20 and 30,000 people and you're on national television in front of millions more, yeah, it's a big step up. Because I promise you, when you're only playing in front of 15 people, you're asking yourself a lot of questions.
But you know what? The words that we're hearing coming from the players sounds a lot like what Colin just said.
Oh, yeah.
They are thinking about, hey, it doesn't just, we're not just going to get here.
No.
You know?
Well, and they're not sitting here thinking, oh, well, you know what? We're just happy with being here. We only want to, if we don't win the next two games, no big deal. But for a lot of times, even you can go back and look at with Vol basketball and with Rick Barnes, like so many people, hey, you know what? It's great he can get us to the tournament. It's great that he can have us be the number one team in the nation. It's great that we can be a 1 seed, but we need to get to the second weekend more consistently. We need to get to the third weekend more consistently. I want Final Fours. I want national championships. Like, that's what you're thinking of with this. And then the Vols make it to the Elite Eight this year in basketball, and you're going, okay, we didn't get it to the Final Four. I mean, look, we talk about Slay being back today and Will Levis being in studio with them at 3 o'clock. Like, Slay went to Detroit. He was there to watch these games, and he was there, but at the same time, he looks like, all right, Rick Barnes made it just a little bit further. You wanted more from Vitello, and he's now in the championship round. Yes, you want to win it, but when you sit back now, you're going, okay, I now know that when he gets to Omaha, he knows how to do this. It's not a situation like with the Red Sox in 03 and 04 of, hey, do we have the right coach that can get us there, but he can't get us over the hump. Like, it's not one of those scenarios, which you see that time even in football. A lot of times a coach gets fired and then the next coach comes in and wins with their guys because he coaches them to the way they need to be coached.
But it's not by coincidence, Joe, that we see Rick Barnes, Tony Vitello, even Josh Heupel to a degree, having this moniker of success at the same time. Because that's when it happens. I won the Big Ten championship I didn't win it. We won it when I was at Illinois at the same time that we had the Flying Illini that went to the Final Four in Seattle. You know, there's a connection there. When you're eating and going to training table together, when we as a football program are taking our recruits to the basketball games, you know, during the wintertime to show off our program, when you see those receivers maybe even in Omaha, you know what I mean? Just hanging out, supporting their boys. Remember when LSU and who was their ringer last year? The guy that sent us
Jaden Daniels?
No,
you're talking about a pitcher. Oh, you're talking about he's pitching for the Pirates now.
Come on, help me.
Number one pitcher.
Yeah. Well, that guy.
How am I forgetting?
But you remember
Skeens.
Paul Skeens, exactly.
God, how did I demerit for me for taking that long to say Paul Skeens.
But the fact is, we saw Angel Reese, we saw all those players from LSU, you know, the ones that had a great football season supporting the baseball team. So it's all connected. You're gonna start seeing, you know, Neyland Stadium spilling over into the Lindsay, into Thompson Bowling, and guess what? They're all supporting each other. And those athletes that want to go there, they are competing for more than just the NIL check.
Yeah, because look, this is the crazy thing. We don't talk about this now. Like, once it gets into the Elite Eights, the Sweet 16s, and that sort of stuff, this NIL stuff goes out the wayside. Like, we're not talking about that anymore. It's now about the winning of this. Like, Josh Heupel, second year, goes 11-2. Vols fans were thinking, I mean, look, even though you had a brand new quarterback he's not brand new, but he was, you know, the backup quarterback is now the starter. You were thinking, all right, we did 11-2 this year. Now we need to be 12-1. We need to be 13-0. We need to do whatever we need to get to the college football playoffs. And then you go 9-4 and you're like, well, that was a letdown. It's an absolute letdown. But at the same time now, you look at Vitello, they made it to the Super Regionals multiple times. They've made it to the College World Series multiple times. And the biggest critique of him was, you're not winning in Omaha. Now, you're not only winning, outside of the comeback against Florida State, you dominated the other two games. Like, even yesterday's game, I turned it on, and I turned it on when it was 5-0. Exactly. And I'm just thinking, what the heck did I miss? Like, you know, I went back and watched because I wanted to see, but I'm sitting here going, it's 5-0. Like, this game is already over. It is already over, and you started your pitcher that has been great for you for the last 4 weeks, and now your Drew Beam is good to go, and you're looking at Stambos and seeing if he's going to be good to go for Saturday. But now everything is set up perfectly for you. I'm not saying that if they lose, you should go walking around on Monday being happy about it. But if you're wanting to critique Vitello, this is now not the time because he's done everything that you want him to, and now he's in the finals and he's 2 wins away. Like, there's no other coach for your basketball team for Rick Barnes, who was lost in the Elite Eight, that is 2 wins away from the national championship outside of Vitello.
You know what? I think it goes deeper than that. I think it goes to the point where even after this season, win or lose, what are they going to be thinking about? Going back.
Oh,
they're going to sound just like Patrick Mahomes too. Hey, let's three-peat. Let's run this thing back, because they understand exactly. Even the underclassmen, right? The guys that aren't eligible to go to the draft, the guys that are going to be coming back playing for Tony V next year. They're saying the same thing. We understand exactly what this experience is like and what people have grown to expect from us, so let's play like it.
You will always, if they do lose this against Texas A&M, if they do, not only are they going to beat themselves up for it for the rest of their lives, they will critique every little small thing that they did wrong in this, but then not only are you going to have to be thinking about let's go back, you're going to have to play Texas A&M at some point in time next year, whether, the schedules haven't come out, whether you're playing them in College Station at, the name of it, it's like Bluebell Park or whatever it is, named after an ice cream. You're either playing at Bluebell Park, you're playing at Lindsey Nelson. Every time you see those uniforms, you're going to think about what happened in Omaha this time. So I'm not saying that they're going to be happy like, oh, hey, congrats, guys. But when it comes to wanting to critique Vitello about this, back up. Because he's done everything. Like, you're in the championship round. Now, we're getting comments on the F&M Bank chat as well about this. And it says, and Fort says, this Vols team seems to have the job's not finished attitude. I think they're going to be locked in during the final. This team right now, there's only one offense that can counter what Tennessee is doing, and it's Texas A&M. That's it. It has been this way all season long. That's why when I was talking about what could happen in Hoover, Texas A&M and Tennessee was my final for Hoover because those are the two best offenses in this league. Now you're about to see it in Omaha, and this park is playing small right now. You've had a lot of home runs.
A lot of home runs.
And these two teams, outside of maybe one pitcher, you're not going to see a 3-1 ball game. It's not going to be that way. You're looking at a 10-9 matchup.
Not on a roster that has 5 players that have hit for 20-plus home runs.
This is going to be hitter-friendly baseball over the course of at least the next 2 nights in that way. Now, Tienberg on the F&M Bank chat says that the strategy of the rotation this year has been golden. Look, the way that Vitello has used Stamos and the leash that Stamos has been on, which may only be 1 or 2 links, it is extremely short, and he goes to Causey. Like, those two combined, I have not seen if they have announced who's going to be pitching in game 1 for the Vols yet, but that matchup has definitely worked. And the way that they have set this pitching up, not just using the relief pitching for 3, 4, 5 innings, they're doing it where pitchers are only pitching 1 or 2 innings, sometimes 1 or 2 outs is all they're getting. Tennessee is set up as beautifully as you possibly could going into this championship round. They are. Alex is joining us now on 104.5 The Zone. You can as well, 615-737-1045. Let's head out to Franklin. Talk to Alex. How's it going, man?
Hey, gentlemen. I can't believe if anybody is dogging the coach because, quite frankly, the team 2 years ago that lost to Notre Dame, they went cold hitting. The pitching the pitching was still good, but the hitting went south. But 2 years ago, you actually had a better team who should have won the World Series, but never made it because of one small series right there at the I can't remember if it was the Super Regionals. I think it was.
Yes.
But, so just by the mere fact that this coach is doing it over and over again, anybody who's talking bad about him has no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and Alex, I think it was more about, and thanks for that phone call, I think it was more about, okay, we have seen what you have done. Now we want to see what you can do as far as making it to the next level, as far as getting us now to the championship on there.
No, I don't think he was saying, Colin wasn't saying anything bad about him. He was just saying he hasn't done enough yet because he hasn't won a championship. And you positioned a couple of teams to be to be likely candidates for a championship, but yet you haven't had the hardware just yet. I think it's almost supporting that, the fact that he can actually get back to that same situation, creating those same kind of teams that have talent, and also the focus, to be able to get to Omaha. Now let's get, don't be the Bills. Don't be getting to the Super Bowl for, how many every years that they did back in the early 90s and never bring home some hardware. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 4 times.
So it's not an indictment saying that Vitello is not doing a good job. It's just saying, hey, look, you got to be Tim Corbin. Come on now.
Well, no,
come on now.
It is so incredibly
difficult. Got to bring the hardware home.
It is so incredibly difficult to get to this spot. And I will say every single day, I say, the college baseball tournament is the hardest tournament to win.
For sure.
Like, it just is. You go through so many double elimination tournaments, best of threes, another double elimination tournament to get to another best of three. It is incredibly hard to win. And so now they're looking at the situation they are, where they're in an amazing situation and setup. They just are. And we talk about this coaching, and then we spin it around, and the Lakers are doing the J.J. Redick thing. Guy has no coaching experience. None.
So listen. What if Peyton Manning? Okay. So if Tom Brady or Peyton Manning wanted to be head coaches, how much pushback would you give them? You wouldn't. If LeBron said, I'm going to be the coach of the Lakers next year, I'm going to retire, I'm not going to play anymore, I'm just going to put these guys in the position to win, what would you say? And these are players. Some people's, the reverence of the game, or even, the little nuances that coaches have that affect the game, it's different. It's hard for Jeff Saturday to be a head coach.
And I mean, the man went from coaching on Fridays to coaching the Colts at some point in time. Like, I know that I know it happens. I mean, again, look at the Yankees. Like, we were sitting here. I mean, Aaron Boone had never coached in his life, and he goes to being the manager of the New York Yankees. Like, I get it. I think that's the reason why the J.J. Redick thing goes. And I'm not a J.J. hater. I love the boy. Like, I love it. Like, he's my favorite white basketball player of all time.
Oh, are you crazy? Have you heard of Jason Williams?
I do, man.
Stop.
I know, but it's nothing against the professor. Like, nothing against him. I've just always loved J.J. Redick before Ed O'Bannon screwed us over, and we had this whole thing about college basketball games were coming out, and I was playing on like PS1 and PS2, and I'm playing it as Duke. Yes, I played as Duke periodically when J.J. Redick was there. Like, my favorite thing in the world to say when playing as Duke is J.J. for three. That's all I said. I said it when he went to the Magic. Like, I'm not hating on the guy. And yes, we just found out about 10 minutes ago that the man's actually from the state of Tennessee. I had no idea he was born in Cookeville.
He was born in Cookeville
idea.
The year before my wife and the year after my brother-in-law.
He apparently lived in Tennessee.
Cookeville.
Yes, in Cookeville for the first 14 years of his life, and he was homeschooled.
Yeah.
I had no idea of this. And then he moved to Virginia and went to high school, and then that's where he started playing. I mean,
apparently the Hopkins family is listening to the show today, because my brother gave me a text too right after the J.J. Redick news broke, and he sent me a text that said J.J. Redick with the like the ghost face emoji, and he said WTF with a bunch of exclamation points, hashtag Lakers Nation. So, and this has been a Lakers fan. My brother's been a Lakers fan since he was a kid, since Kurt Rambis days. That shows you how far he goes back. Right, Michael Cooper, those kind of cats. That's how far back he goes watching the Lakers, and he is even scratching his head about the new head coach of the Lakers.
In the F&M Bank chat, Lonzo says that I'm a Lakers fan, but this hiring is an absolute joke. It's like,
okay, but so the thing is, anybody that comes in has to deal with what?
LeBron.
No, thank you. They have to deal with LeBron, and that's just a fact. If LeBron doesn't, put it this way, if they were looking at hiring anybody to not actually engage LeBron in this process, I mean, is almost silly.
Well, and look, LeBron gets compared to Kobe. He does get compared to Michael. Like, you're putting him in the atmosphere of the greatest of all time. Not saying he's not saying he is. I'm just saying, but the Bulls didn't talk to Michael about this. I mean, trust me, we've seen the documentary. We know they didn't talk to Jordan.
About bringing in what?
About bringing in around Phil Jackson. Like, they did not talk to him about this. Kobe, But
that was when he was younger, though, too. This is 48-year-old LeBron.
Or keeping Phil Jackson. Like, they didn't even, trust me. I mean, we all know now the story of the Bulls, because what else did we do during COVID? We all watched The Last Dance. We know that the Lakers didn't talk to Kobe about bringing in Phil Jackson. Like, it was Kobe went through.
But it's Phil Jackson. What would they need to talk to him about?
Because sometimes they don't mesh. And
Phil Jackson?
Yes. There are so many players that did not mesh with Phil Jackson. I mean, they're really like, and Phil's just like, all right, well, you guys can go. I mean, like, his books have talked about how there's just guys that he couldn't mesh with no matter how much he tried. They just weren't Phil Jackson guys. They didn't like the triangle offense. They didn't want to do those types of things. But if you can go win a
championship at two different franchises, bro, this says a lot about who you are as a coach.
But I'm just saying, like, they don't talk to their players about this, but we are saying that the Lakers are doing this now. with LeBron, if they bring in the guy that publicly LeBron has given the green light to because he did his podcast a few days. Again, we bash Vitello because of his coaching ability, and now the Lakers are hiring a guy that has zero.
Here's a great question. T. and Burke has another great question. How much does an NBA coach affect the game?
We'll talk more about that when we come back as well. How much does an NBA coach deal with? Induce 615-737-1045. Blaine Bishop out today. He'll be back tomorrow. He is Brad Hopkins. I am Joe Hunk, brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. This is 1045 The Zone.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop, and I'm excited to tell you about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance, or as you may know them as TOA. And TOA has 29 locations and over 100 orthopedic physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. In addition to the orthopedic clinics and urgent care facilities, TOA offers physical therapy, hand therapy, and sports performance training for teams and individuals at their sports performance centers. And as a former professional athlete, I know how important access to expert orthopedic care is. So whether you're an athlete, active adult, or just looking to get back to living your best life, you can visit TOA online at TOA.com. That's TOA.com. Or you can call them at 1-855-NEED-TOA. It's 1-855-NEED-TOA.
13 minutes away from QB1, Will Levis being in studio with 3HL, so you do not want to miss it. We are also a little over 3 hours away from first pitch in Birmingham. Giants and Cardinals at Rickwood Field, and it is going to be an emotional night. This entire event for Rickwood Field that Major League Baseball was doing was designed around Willie Mays. It has been that way for the last 3 years, had been designed to honor him and the rest of the Negro League players that played at that field and that are going to be there tonight. And Willie Mays was the centerpiece of all of this. His plaque was brought down from Cooperstown so that people could see it. Like, plaques don't leave Cooperstown. And they brought it down to Birmingham and to Rickwood Field to be a part of this. And then he passes away on Wednesday night during the Birmingham Black Barons and Montgomery Biscuits minor league game that was taking place at Rickwood Field. It's the most unbelievable thing to happen. And Major League Baseball spent $4.5 million renovating that stadium to get it ready for tonight. So I know it's not a lot. I know we're talking Vols, but I'm just letting you know, 6:15, Fox Sports. Make sure that you're watching it because it is going to be absolutely amazing. Now, we're getting a lot of comments on the F&M Bank chat as well about the J.J. Redick and the fact that he has now agreed to a 4-year deal to be the L.A. Lakers head coach. And so the question that you were asked and that we were asked in the F&M Bank chat right beforehand is, how much does an NBA coach actually affect the game? And that's why we start to question about the ability of J.J. Redick, because the reason we bring it up is you mentioned Jeff Saturday being the head coach of the Colts. We talked about if Peyton or Tom Brady wanted to be an NFL head coach. But Aaron Boone did this. We saw this with Jason Kidd. I mean, again, he was just in the NBA Finals coaching, and obviously he was a former player, and he's had multiple stops within the NBA. But how much does an NBA coach actually play into what the LA Lakers could be doing in the next future, and how much do they go into game planning?
Well, I think first it goes into the role and responsibility of the players. I don't think quarterbacks have near the autonomy that, say, a basketball player does, and let's just say guard position, because they're the ones that have the ball in their hands, right? LeBron James has way more of an influence on a game than, say, Tom Brady did or Peyton Manning did. These guys aren't necessarily, and I think it's because there's so many moving parts. You know, quarterbacks are just one link in the chain of an offense being successful. Guys have to block. Guys have to catch. Guys have to run after catch. Guys have to do so many different things to basically culminate in a score versus a guy that just takes the ball in his hand and with his God-given ability can go coast to coast and put it in your face, right? And then go back on the other end and play defense. He can play both sides of the court. In other words, having way more of an effect on the game than, say, one position could at quarterback. So I would say that may be reflective on how coaches can influence the game as well. Can they be micromanagers, reminding those players like LeBron, like Anthony Davis, like, you know, those guys to say, hey, look, this is what we talked about during the week. We got to, you know, be able to let's go fast pace. Let's get things going. Let's rebound. Let's get on the glass. Let's move the ball around, not just have it be sticky hands in one person's hand or sitting there getting stuck with it. You know, let's keep doing some of those things that we were working on during the week, right? I can remind you that versus listening to a play call and then checking your wrist to see which play it is that you're supposed to run. You're basically doing what the coordinator would want you to do. Brian Callahan has way more influence on who Will Levis is than, say, J.J. Redick will ever have on anybody that's a Laker. You see what I'm saying?
I understand. It's just, I guess from my part is I've seen so many of these, obviously, documentaries. Guys, like, I'll tell you, I sucked at basketball. I wish I could have been great at basketball. There's a sport I wish I could be great at. Is basketball. I loved basketball. I was horrible at it. Great defense, horrible offense. Beautiful shot, couldn't get anywhere close to the basket.
You know, everybody that's bad at basketball says they're great defenders.
Oh, you know why? Because you didn't have to learn anything. You just had to make sure the ball didn't go in your face, like didn't get shot over you. That's it. If I have to tackle you, I'm going to tackle you. I mean, I may cause technical, but still, I sucked at shooting. Gorgeous shot. I mean, beautiful. It was like if there was a Tom Amansky video for basketball, I would be the one shooting it, and somebody else would be the one that would be the second cut actually making it. I can make a beautiful shot. cannot make anything.
So how do you have a pretty shot but it wouldn't go in?
I don't know. I never understood it. Like, seriously, the best compliment I ever got in my life, and I don't even see this as a compliment, is for a guy that sucks so bad at basketball, you've got a beautiful shot.
Well, how are your handles, bro? Could you at least move the ball around?
No.
So what part of the game were you good at? Were you Dennis Rodman out there?
I was good at looking good in the uniform.
What are you talking about? You're 5'11".
And that was without the hawk. I was looking great in the uniform. And that was
can't even see Joe Hunk without the ball.
Our uniforms were like North Carolina uniforms, except they were in red, white, and blue, so they had like the pattern down the side.
Were you the Globetrotters?
Oh, we looked amazing. But I sucked at it. So to see somebody like JJ, who's in the league for like 15 years or however long he was in the NBA, and to see him doing this, it's a fantastic. I love him, but at the same time, these are guys, a lot of these that were in the league when you are and when you were. And these are guys that you're now going to be coaching. Like we've seen the Phil Jackson videos and how much that, the X's and O's and the design that he's going on. If you're watching, like we mentioned earlier, Clipped, and how much Doc Rivers puts into practices and getting players to go. Does JJ have that ability in a Lakers practice to start calling out the players to get them to focus so that they'll be ready for the game? Does he have that ability?
I think that JJ as a player needs to have the type of accolades that would make players respect him. In other words, if LeBron were to decide to be a coach, the fact that he's won championships on many different rosters can say, hey, look, listen to this guy because he knows what he's talking about. Versus somebody that's kind of unproven, maybe had to work his way up through the ranks being an assistant. I'm not sure how Steve Kerr started. I'm not sure how.
There's another example I didn't even think of, and he's won NBA championships.
Steve Nash. He was also a head coach, didn't necessarily work out. But you see what I'm saying, though? So some guys can make it, some guys might not. How about Jim Harbaugh? He was a player. You know what I mean? Guys that play at a high level sometimes can translate to those guys that are playing, but hey, it's not guaranteed.
And coming up here in about 6 minutes from now, Will Levis on with 3HL. I know Slay will talk about this as well once Levis is done. He's going to be in with 3HL for an entire hour. Will Levis will be. B-Hop, we appreciate it, bro. But in the meantime.
And in between time,
peace.